Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program Agenda. Today is March 9, 2022. It's a Wednesday. Doon po sa mga magsisimba na may panata, lakad na po. Baka hindi na kayo umabot sa misa. And for the rest of us, I do hope that you have said your prayers, your thanksgiving to God Almighty. And allow me to give my thanksgiving to you and gratitude for being subscribers of Signal TV and viewers of One News PH on channels 8 and 250 and viewers of Agenda. Maraming salamat po dun sa mga nakausap namin, those who greeted us, asked for photos when we were up in Baguio City, and it was really heartwarming. It's really encouraging to meet our viewers and get feedback from them. So we really thank you on behalf of Signal TV, on behalf of One News PH and Agenda. And of course, nagpapasalamat tayo sa PLDT for their home fiber optic internet and their optic internet services for commercial establishments, because it was because of PLDT home fiber or fiber optic internet that we were able to broadcast from the Manor Hotel at Camp John Hay. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Mon Cabrera, for assisting us and agreeing to be one of our interviewees. And yun po, no, for today, I'd like to give you an idea of what's up for the program. We are going to speak with a gentleman, a professor who has been on the show, I think at least twice. We always go to him because his advocacy and his organization's advocacy is regarding integrity in the elections and integrity in our political system. And I speak of none other than Professor Danilo Arao of Contra Daya, because Contra Daya and Professor Arao mentioned recently or announced recently that they did a study and analysis of the Philippine party list system and the various party lists. And lumalabas po na malaking bahagi ng mga party list na baka meron kayong gustong suportahan dyan, apparently are not true representatives of the underprivileged or those who are poorly represented. Kasi yun ang dapat. That is the basis for the party list. Para dun sa mga dehado, marami raw pong party list this year. Ha? Party list ng sabungan. Okay? Party list ng kandidato, party list ng politiko, ng negosyo, etc. And not necessarily the poor or the underrepresented. So we will speak with Professor Dan regarding that. And later, after that interview, we will interview I think there are a couple. I think, they are JJ and Rhea Sisip of the Fatted Calf, pinatabang, dalagang baka, pinatabang dalagang baka, the Fatted Calf, because I heard from our friend and regular here also on Agenda, R.D. Abelio, that he had visited the restaurant on numerous occasions, and he discovered that the owners there, I think in Alfonso, Cavite, were corporate people. Kumbaga nagtatrabaho sa kumpanya, negosyo, etc. Biglang na-COVID yung kanilang negosyo or yung kanilang kumpanya. So sila, they decided to pursue something very different, and they have been blessed. We'll find out the story kasi mahirap naman po. Baka mamaya pinagtatagpi-tagpi ko na. But for the meantime, let's go with our daily starter. The time is 8:05. Our daily starter for today, we forget that waking up each day is the first thing we should be grateful for. Okay? Huwag niyo pong kalimutan na ang unang-unang bagay na dapat kayo magpasalamat ay yung gumising ka na buhay ka pa at may dahilan kang magpasalamat. Okay? Let us be grateful for each day, regardless of the situation. Because sabi nga ni Lord, tumawag ka sa akin, call to me, and I will hear you and I will help you. Now, the help may not be what you want, but trust me, okay? Because last week, this week, weekend, I witnessed, may mga nakita akong pangyayari na naperwisyo. Tapos dahil doon sa perwisyo, may nakausap na mga tao. Dahil may nakausap na tao, biglang nakadiscover ng pagkakataon or opportunity. So sometimes, inconveniences can turn out to be divine appointments that turn out to be blessings. Okay, so be grateful that you are awake today. Meanwhile, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. March 9, 2022, ang headline po. Anong bago? Okay. The headline of the Philippine Star, minimum public utility jeepney fare, pasahe sa jeepney, stays at 9 pesos for now. According to the LTFRB, the fare or yung pasahe remains at 9 pesos. They will be talking about it tomorrow. They will be meeting about it in their board and they will decide kung tataasan nila ng piso. Okay? Pati po yung piso lumiit na eh. Okay? So, it remains at 9 pesos and they still have to talk a little more, talk longer, if they will bring it to 10 pesos while the jeepney drivers are already saying we need to bring it up to 16 pesos. So, yan na po. Anyway, at the top of the front page, the header, Supreme Court issues TRO versus COMELEC's Oplan Baklas after supporters of Vice President Leni Robredo in Isabela and other province filed a case regarding the COMELEC Oplan Baklas or pagtatanggal ng mga tarpaulin campaign materials in private properties. The Supreme Court issued a TRO or temporary restraining order and gave the COMELEC 10 days to explain. Okay. Meanwhile, still with the COMELEC, President Rodrigo Duterte has appointed several, three, to my recollection, three COMELEC officials, and one of them was a former head of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos and former governor of Lanao del Sur, Saidamin Balt Pangurangan, okay, as chairman, and then yung kaibigan natin na si attorney and Dean, okay, Dean George Garcia, formerly of the Pamantasan yata ng Manila, if I'm not mistaken, has also appointed as commissioner, and also Miss Amy Torrefranca Neri as commissioner of COMELEC. Tapos may mga bago rin pong mga Court of Appeals appointees. 45% expect life to improve in a year. The SWS came out with a survey that they conducted from December 12 to December 16. Medyo atrasado na. And the results of the survey say that 45% of those surveyed said na umaasa sila, they expect life to improve in 1 year. So on December to December, ayun, 10 months to go pa sila. Okay, meanwhile, entire Philippines now low risk for COVID. That's according to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. But in the meantime, there are still many provinces na pinag-aawayan yung ano bang level talaga. Okay. That big photo in the center spread of the Philippine Star features Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade leading the inspection of the launching shaft of the tunnel boring machine to be used for the country's first subway at the site in Valenzuela yesterday. Kumbaga, doon ipapasok yung barena, yung dambuhalang barena to make a tunnel for the subway project in Metro Manila. And then below that, President Duterte eyes special to pass oil crisis law. Bantayan po natin ito because the president is now convinced or inclined to call for a special session regarding the oil crisis. If you remember, Congressman Mikey Romero said that we need to freeze the ball, yung dun sa mga excise tax kasi at least mababawasan ng konti yung ating paghihirap. However, there are parties, particularly the DOF and the DOE, saying this is a short-term problem. We should bite the bullet. And then there are congressmen, Speaker Lord Alan Velasco and Joey Salceda saying, maglabas na kayo ng state of economic emergency para magasto mga pera doon sa mga kanayunan. Ang problema, may eleksyon, may kampanya. So, libreng campaign funds ba yan ang mangyayari? Anyway, we will see what the president will do. That photograph below there is a photo of seafarers who are part of the crew of the MVS Breeze docked in Ukraine. Pinauwi na sila. Kumbaga, hindi na ilalabas yung barko doon sa Ukraine. Baka mabomba pag lumabas. Yung mga tripulante have been told, go home to the Philippines first until we are finished with this invasion by Russia. Meantime, in the DZRJ interviews of presidential candidates, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos declares that he will not use martial law unless there is a war in the Philippines if he is elected president. Below that, we have a photo of the Photon Motor Dealers Appreciation Night and the awarding ceremony for the best dealer that went to Photon Bacoor. Okay, yun po. And eto, Russian forces scuppering evacuations. Malay ko ba kung anong ibig sabihin niya, scuppering? Ang alam ko, scuttling. Kumbaga, nilulubog. Ha? But apparently, Russian forces, after coming into an agreement with the Ukrainian peace delegation, they had an agreement to create a humanitarian corridor for evacuation. However, the Russian forces reportedly started planting landmines, bombing buses that were supposed to be used for refugees, etc. In other words, kung ano yung sinabi sa bibig, malayo naman sa ginawa. Okay. Last but not the least, okay, at 8:14 in the morning, hotel owners in the Philippines, particularly Metro Manila, have demanded for OWA to pay them the 1.5 billion pesos for quarantine expenses and charges. Yan na naman po. After PhilHealth, we now have hotel owners demanding payment from OWA. And we will find out if OWA still has the capacity and the funds to do so, because last time that there was a surge and OFWs returned, OWA said, why kwalta? Okay, so we will find out. So that's the news from the Philippine Star, and the time is 8:15. Medyo ako late na dito. Let's now go to our first guest, a professor from the University of the Philippines and convener of Contradaya, Danilo Arao. Prof, sana tama yung pagkasabi ko ng apelido mo na naman.
Tama naman po. Good morning. Good morning, Sito, and good morning to all the televiewers.
Okay, I'll be honest, Professor, your recent statement to the media regarding your Contradaya, hindi naman ikaw lang yan, ano? Your group made a study of the party lists in the Philippines, and the findings were?
Well, the long and short of it is that almost 70% of the total party list groups are actually questionable in the sense that they are either one of the following. First, they may have connections with political clans. Second, they may have connections with big businesses. Third, they may have unclear or questionable advocacies and representations. Fourth, they may have connections with the government and or the military. And fifth, some of the party list nominees may have pending cases or have been embroiled in certain controversies. So these parameters more or less provide guidance to the electorate as to the information they need in selecting one of the 177 party list groups running in this particular cycle.
177 party list, and 70% of them has landed in the category of suspicious, questionable, or doubtful.
Yes, to be exact, that's 120 so far. Yeah, 120.
120. Ngayon, ang tanong, no, how did you go about determining this? Although, to be fair, marami naman sa amin talagang sa media, alam na namin, ay nako, party list ni congressman yan, ay party list yan ni congresswoman, ay binili lang yan ni ganito doon sa isang grupo, sila na ngayon yung party list. But how did you do it? Because, you are from the University of the Philippines, so there is a higher standard expected in your evaluation.
Yes, we have a team of researchers doing everything. So, well, if you want to be specific, we've divided 177 party lists into small groups, and we assigned a researcher to do deep background investigation. So that's a methodology in journalism. As you know, Woodward has done it in his books pertaining to Trump. And this particular deep background investigation looks at the following aspects. Number one, the track record of the particular party list group. Number two, determining the information, at least the publicly available information on the party list nominee, so that we don't impinge on the privacy of these particular nominees. And number three, we also try to determine, based on publicly available information, any controversy surrounding the group in general or the nominees in particular. So through deep background investigation, we're able to put a higher standard to it. Now, there is also another tier in terms of doing the research. So whatever information is provided by our team of researchers, we try to double check and then we triple check everything. Sito, that would partly explain why when we publicly mentioned this research and that our target was supposed to be sometime in December that we will release it, there were some delays, because one interesting aspect of our research is that surprisingly, there are party list groups with little information or no information at all. So that's why when we mentioned there are 120 party lists that were flagged, we use the phrase "at least" because we've been unable, I'm sorry to say, to gather information on certain party list groups, which is a bit strange, by the way, because if you are running for elections, then you have to put your information out there. You should have social media presence, you should have a website, you should have an email address, but apparently these party list groups are quite invisible, perhaps for reasons that we can deeply discuss later on.
Okay, but before we even go deep dive into that, the question is, who are these party list groups, or are you can you actually share that? Yung ba, because we would have to do it ourselves, no? Hahanapin din namin. Alam mo, may tamaritis ako ngayong umaga at pagod sa biyahe. who are these party list groups that if we actually went to social media or did a research as journalists, we would find little to none?
Okay. You're referring to the party list groups that have little or no information at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try to look at it. Yeah, because the information is somewhere here. Yeah. ABECA is one example. What else? Yeah. I may need to get back to you on
Okay,
that
okay.
regarding
Sige.
the party list
Oh.
groups. Yeah.
But mga, how many of those party list groups, because you were talking about 177, 120 ang questionable, yung little or no information available, ilan dyan?
Yeah, okay. By the way, I now have I'm able to pull up my file. The ones with limited or no information would number 18 party list groups. Just quickly, 9 Marvelous tayo, Ako Musikero, Aktibong Kaagapay, One Co-op, Solid Change, Smile, Butil Party List, Babae Ako, Kabaka, Asenso Pinoy, Alif, Abeka, Subanen, Trabaho, Arte, Amin, Akapinoy, and last, Ayuda. So those are the ones with little or no information at all. So these are unflagged, but we're not saying that these are free from any controversies right now. So perhaps it's good that you ask me that question because with your help and with other investigative journalists and fact checkers, they should be able to perhaps try to unearth these things. But if you want a quick explanation as to why we have limited to no information here, the system in party list representation since 1998 has been that certain groups have gamed the system in such a way that you don't need to campaign nationwide. So you only need to focus on one particular region or one particular area to get the necessary votes. And from our experience, Sito, if you have something like 300,000 votes, you are more or less assured of one seat in Congress because of the new methodology in computing the allocated seats. So you don't need to get the 1% for as long as the 2%. You don't need to get the 2% requirement for one seat because if all 2%ers have already exhausted the seats allocated for them, the votes that are below 2% of the total votes cast can get their seats as long as they are ranked accordingly. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, kumbaga, Prof, unlike those running for president, vice president, and senator, because it is a national campaign, they have to have a national presence. In fact,
Yes.
almost even international dahil sa dami ng OFW. However, for the party list, it's become like a congressional run because you only need 300,000 votes per seat. So parang nagdi-distrito na rin sila or their approach is like a district campaign.
Exactly. And this is most especially true for those that are controlled by political clans. You don't need to go nationwide. You only need to ensure that your voter base would be able to deliver.
And the issue there is because if you are supposed to be representing the underprivileged or disenfranchised o yung walang boses, you would assume that anyone campaigning for such a party list slot would be campaigning and representing nationwide. Kasi yung mga bulag, pipe, mga utal, or I'm not, I'm just using as an example, mga kaibigan, I'm not, I'm not discriminating, but a underrepresentation would be a problem nationally, not just in one district.
Yes, that's correct. However, because of the Atong Paglaom case in 2013, the Supreme Court, in not so many words, said that the party list system is not exclusive to marginalized sectors and that even if you're a party list nominee, it's okay to run for as long as you're just merely a champion of a particular sector. In other words, you don't need to be a farmer to represent a farmer's group.
Pero that would require that you have a track record of campaigning, speaking out, or working for that particular community.
That's correct. That's correct.
Meron ka bang nakita, Professor, na mga party list nominees na teka, nakatira sa Forbes Park itong damuhong ito. I-represent na yung mga yung mga Kalakal Boys.
Pangalanan po natin yung isa. CWS party list is one example. It's supposed to be a worker solidarity party list, but the nominees, at least the first nominee, is actually a big capitalist. He's an owner of a very, very big business. So examples like that have been happening, Sito. And even in other regions, unfortunately, the political clans, aside from big businesses, the political clans have really maximized this seat in order to provide additional entrenchment to Congress. So they would use the party list system to allow relatives to sit alongside with them. So you have a district representative and then you have a party list representative with the same surname. And there are also cases, Sito, where at the local level, for example, you're a mayor and then your 3 terms are already over. So you would run for party list so that you can still maintain some power and then use it to warm the bench, so to speak, to come back as mayor once your term as party list representative is over. So there had been cases like that as well through the years.
But isn't that illegal? I mean, by spirit of the law and COMELEC rules, you can only be a member of Congress for 3 consecutive terms, correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
So tatakbo siya na party list, Congress pa rin yung lalandingan niya. So illegal yun.
No. What I mentioned was an example of a local official, mayor. So after 3 terms, mayor ka, and then
sorry, mayor.
Ka, yes. In Congress, if you're a district representative, I would have to defer to a lawyer with regard to the possibility.
I'm sorry, I
okay.
misheard you because I thought you were saying that you have a congressman extending the term by running for party list. Meron ka ba nakitang ganon? Yung bang district congressman nung naubos na yung term biglang tumakbong party list? Ang usually yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Magkakabistuhan na.
Yeah, o nga. But there have been cases, Sito, where former members of Congress ran for party list, but it's not as if they ran immediately after their term has expired. But there have been cases like that.
Okay, but have you actually taken action? I mean, it's admirable that Contra Daya and you, Professor Dan, are bringing this to the attention of the voters. Pero the best thing to do here is actually file a complaint at the COMELEC and say, teka, sir, medyo there's something highly irregular here, or that this should be addressed, or wala na talaga, parang zona libre na.
Right now, we haven't talked to the COMELEC about our study on the party list system, but for the record, since 2007, we've been doing this study. So it's really not new. We've tried to bring this to the attention of the COMELEC, but we've been ignored repeatedly. But there have been cases where we tried to intervene with the Supreme Court. In one of the cases, the study of Contra Daya was used to determine the validity of the essence of the party list system. So if you recall, way back in 2009, there were certain decisions made by the Supreme Court regarding the party list system, particularly the computation of seats. So we've used that opportunity, Sito, to also bring in the so-called misrepresentation of the law. But it's a little bit frustrating for us that this particular issue would be ignored by the COMELEC.
Okay, now in this recent study of yours, what do you feel is the most insulting, the most untenable, or kumbaga parang sandali, nakakaloko na itong mga party list na ito? Ano ba yung pinakamasahol na nakita mo?
In our press statement, we identified certain party list groups that were flagged not just once, not just twice, but thrice. So, miyembro na ng political clan, tapos may kontrobersya pa, tapos may connection pa sa military. But what's a bit unique about this particular party list system would be the existence of red tagging party list groups. So that's something new that we haven't found. Well, we've found them in the past election cycle, pero mas malala na po ngayon. So we refer to IP's EPANAW, where one of the party list nominees happens to be the spokesperson of NTF-ELCAC, although many of these nominees are from the NCIP, the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, that incidentally, just like the National Youth Commission, has been used to red tag certain personalities. So Duterte Youth is still very much around, and as you know, it's quite notorious for red tagging, and there are at least two party list groups that would be expected to engage in red tagging because their party list nominees are identified with NTF-ELCAC. So I refer to MOCA, Mothers for Change, and Abante Sambayanan, in which the first nominee is the informant of NTF-ELCAC, Jeffrey Ka Eric Cedis. Now, MOCA, as you know, has two nominees who are prominent with NTF-ELCAC. So these are MOCA Uson and Michelle Gumabaw.
Okay, so but those are the, kumbaga, to be fair naman, sila yung mga bagong salta trying to get into Congress. Eh yung mga dapat magpahinga na or, you know, parang extension office na ni Congressman.
Okay, that's a good question. We can identify one. Abono Party List has been quite notorious through the years. It's one of the oldest groups to run in the elections. And as we all know, this is owned by the Ortegas and the Estrellas. So they are able to entrench themselves in Congress because, as we all know, the Estrellas and the Ortegas are quite strong in La Union and somewhere in the north. So they're able to combine their resources and they're able to have one or two seats in Congress. That's also, lest I forget, that's also another characteristic in certain party list groups. So the political clans would tend to pull their resources so that if ever one particular area or one particular region would not be able to deliver, they would be able to offset such inadequacy with the other party list groups.
Yeah, where are these practices prevalent or consistent or constant? Sa Central Luzon, in NCR, Visayas, or Mindanao?
I'm sorry to say, but it's everywhere. You have party list groups owned by political clans in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. So let me give you an example. In the Visayas region, you have Tingog Sinarangan party list, which is practically owned by the Romualdez clan. And through the years, Tingog has been able to get at least one seat in Congress, and the Romualdezes, powerful as they are in the Visayas region, they don't need to team up with any of the political clans. They can do so on their own. Provinciano Ako is also another example. Basically, this is a Fariñas party list group, another family which is very, very strong in the northern part of the Philippines.
What about Mindanao?
In Mindanao, wait, let me pull up my file. So I think we're able to also have certain party list groups in Mindanao, but I apologize to the public if I'm,
Well,
so
it's all right,
unable to
Professor,
get it. Yes,
kasi
sorry.
syempre, hindi naman basta-basta binubunot yan sa computer. But at the end of the day, I mean, you do this every election year. Now, hindi pa ba kayo napapagod, nagsasawa, o parang hands up na because I mean, what do you manage to achieve kicking up all of this and exposing all of this? Meron bang napapala ang Pilipinas or your group? Have you managed to at least get somewhere in doing this?
Well, the silver lining here, Sito, is that people are very interested in the party list system. Since we've come up with our study, we've been getting feedback left and right. And I wish to announce right now that we will be making public the data set. It's just a matter of trying to lay it out in a manner that would be more understandable to people. Because as you know, Sito, we have 177 party list groups and thousands of data points. So we want to make, it's definitely going to be very, very long, but we want to make it readable to the public. So just like in the past, we will make it public. Now, do we get something out of it? Definitely, because we're able to guide the voters in terms of choosing their party list group. So just for the record, Sito, we don't say don't vote for any of these party list groups, even if that may be the implication. The
Mhm.
message, the underlying message to the people is that if you want to vote for this particular party list group, this is the information that you have. So it's up to you as to what judgment call you would want to make. Yeah.
Kumbaga, bibigyan mo ng trabaho, interviewin mo muna or checkin mo muna yung kanilang biodata.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Professor Arao, convener contra DAIA, for your efforts, for your sacrifices, and may you find fruit in this endeavor. Have a good day, Prof.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Okay, and we will now go for a quick break, and when we return, punta naman tayo doon sa pinatabang dalagang baka. Parang naalala ko yung sinasabi ng tatay kong anak ng dalagang baka. Marami namang naniwala, wala namang nanganganak na dalagang baka. Okay, let's go for a quick break, and when we return, we speak with the chef couple, JJ Sisip and Rhea Sisip of the Fatted Calf here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and with us at this point of our program are couples JJ and Rhea Sisip. Akala ko po corporate executive sila, culinary executives pala. JJ, Rhea, good morning to both of you.
Morning, Sir Sito.
Good morning, Sir Cito. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, RD Abello, our common friend, shared with me his experience at your outlet somewhere, I believe in Alfonso Cavite, if I'm not mistaken. And he was telling me that, bro, you gotta meet these people. You've got to meet this couple because in the middle of the pandemic, they just decided to go all out with their passion, their dream. But it's more than just putting up a restaurant. They're really engaging farmers. Now, I don't know who is the official spokesperson of the Team CCIP, pero JJ Rhea, can you please share us your journey for the fatted calf? At hindi po pala ito pinatabang bakang dalaga o dalagang baka, mga kaibigan. Pinatabang batang baka. Okay.
So ako muna daw po ang official spokesperson. So good morning, everyone. So actually, the restaurant is located in Silang, Cavite.
Mm.
We are just very close to Tagaytay. So we consider ourselves also as part of the destinations whenever you visit Tagaytay. We actually started the Fatted Calf when we were still working separately in the kitchen. We had this vision, we had this dream of coming up with something that we like to prepare for our friends and for eventually for the guests that we'll have. But we've been working with corporate clients as well. I actually work as a corporate chef and JJ as well. So ang hirap kasi, Sir Cito, when you are tied to certain conditions in terms of finances for food cost. So there are a lot of things when we were doing work for other people that we felt that we were very limited because we can't pursue what we really want to do, which is to help local farmers. So that was our dream, that was our vision, that when the time comes that we'll have our own, that we'll be able to use produce or any ingredient that we feel is actually right because the Philippines is very rich when it comes to resources, to the ingredients that we have. But most of the time, when you talk about of local, people has this notion that local is imported is always better than local.
Mm.
But we really wanted to change that mindset. It took us a lot. It took us actually with the fatted calf up until now. We are still in the process of educating people that local doesn't mean bad. Local is actually very good because it means that not only it's sustainable that we're helping others, but there are a lot of things available in the country that are very, very good that most of the diners haven't been exposed to yet.
Okay. Now, the question is kasi, sorry feeling guilty tuloy ako, Rhea, kasi kumain ako sa isang very down-to-earth home-based restaurant sa Baguio. Pero nung kinikwento na yung chef sa akin yung mga pagkain doon, sabi niya, oh, that is Norwegian squid, that is ganito ganyang lamb from New Zealand. Sabi ko, baka ma-hospital ako sa sarap nito. Pero pag sinasabi kasi, when they say local, most people, JJ would say, well, you know, you're there in Silang Kamo, no? Di ba, ang bilihan ng baka dyan sa Mendez. And sinasabi ng mga tao, ako, pag bumili ka ng baka dyan, siguro doon mo, nakita mo bago kinatay. Kasi baka mas matanda pa sa lolo mo yan.
Well, actually, we source it very well. We're very strict in terms of our selection process as to sino ba yung kukunin namin, kanino ba namin kukunin. Like for example, for the chicken itself, we use a free-range organic chicken that is from Batangas. We've selected them out of 4 or 5 farms that we've spoken to in terms of their processes, their methods, their philosophy in terms of ano ba talaga yung pinapakain, paano nila inaalagaan. We usually joke around nga sa restaurant with the guests na alam namin kung anong huling kinain ng manok bago katayin.
So when,
Okay.
when we tell them that they're happy chickens, happy
They're
talaga.
happy because they're roaming around. They're not in 8 by 8 cages.
Okay. Well,
And
go ahead. Go ahead, Rhea.
the process also, we mentioned po kanina, Sir Cito, that we are educating our guests. But at the same time, we're also being educated by the farmers and at the same time, even the cattle raisers. So we know if kung babae ba yung baka, kung lalaki ba. So there's a distinct smell and taste and flavor that actually is contributing to the dish that we're preparing.
Okay. Now, how did you actually end up in Silang? Because I understand Metro Manila based kayo during the COVID, or you were working for a company. Can you tell us a little background about yourselves?
Well, ikaw muna.
Well, we started dating 2005. Of course, Tagaytay has always been a date place. So, siguro I think we were on our second year, and parang, of course, we wanted to live there. The weather was nice, lots of vegetables around. So sabi namin, sige, ikot-ikot tayo. Then we stumbled upon this house because we got lost.
Wala pa pong Waze noong time na yun. So, wala pa rin Google Maps, no? So, and JJ is actually very sheltered. Hindi yan pinapalabas ng nanay niya. So, when it comes to looking for a spot where to go to and discover new food, ako po yung in charge.
Siya yung gala.
But JJ doesn't want to get lost. Ayaw niya nung naliligaw. So, when we actually look for our specifically for a restaurant that we wanted to visit and try, naligaw kami and we ended up at the Fatted Calf. So
Or
that's
the site itself.
the site itself. So
Mm.
that was the location wherein there's kumbaga the car is allowed for us to back up. No?
Yeah, parang, so nag-U-turn kami dun sa driveway.
And then there was the signage kasi si JJ mainit na yung ulo, nakalagay for sale or for lease. And then sabi ko, Jay, I would give up my life in Manila if we could actually move here. Sabi niya, yan, ang laki-laki niyan, ang mahal niyan for sure. That was like 11 years ago.
2007.
That was 2007. And after 12 years, we stumbled
More than.
more than no, we
Yeah.
stumbled upon an ad. There was no details, only a number and a photo of the facade of the house. And then I called up JJ and I said, "Do you remember this house?" And that was actually the house. Yung photo na yan, dyan kami naligaw. And that was the view, the
Yeah.
frontage of the
Yan
house.
naman kasi sinasabihan ka na JJ, dinala ka na ni Lord, pasaway ka pa eh.
So kaya po kami nag-end up sa Fatted Calf. So,
But we believe that everything is planned.
Yeah.
My God, because sabi nga namin ni Rhea, it was a preview of what was to
Mm.
come.
Okay. So,
Then I went there to see it 2018.
mhm.
The moment that I stepped inside, tumawag ako kay Rhea, hindi ba ito? Sabi ko, baka ito na yung restaurant natin. Then a year after, we opened it, we prayed for it. Everything was paved for us. So yun, I mean,
Hence
But-
the name of the
Yeah.
restaurant. So,
why fatted calf?
well, the fatted calf is biblical eh.
Mhm.
It comes from the book of Luke. It comes from the story of the prodigal son.
Mm.
So, di ba, sa atin, it's always, when it comes to family, it's always a feast. Especially for both of our families.
Mhm.
Food has so much history in our lives. Growing up, my parents would always wait for my siblings and myself for the meal. We would always eat together. Everything was always talked about. We would spend almost 2 hours just for dinner because we were talking. So many things happened during a meal. So I think when
Yeah,
we were,
but JJ, eating the meal. I mean, you're welcome to put a 10-course meal in front of me, but if I have to prepare it, it takes it requires skill, not just taste. It requires skill. You have farmers, but what made you believe that you, JJ, and Rhea can do this? Kasi ano, alam mo, marami namang mga chefs who tried and failed. But what convinced both of you?
We've been working in the industry for a while, but we've always worked at the background behind the scenes. We've worked as consultants or we work as corporate chefs, but nobody knew us. Actually, Sir Cito, we're not when we envisioned the Fatted Calf. It was more for the food that we wanted to the people to try. So it wasn't about us. But when we felt and we knew that it was the time for us to start building the restaurant, we the two of us talked and we knew that by combining all of the experiences that we had, although of course not as long as other chefs have, but we believe that it's not only the passion because mahirap kasi pag passion lang nauubos but it's really the vision and the drive that we have and
In the dream.
the dream that we have when we got together and individually also. I've worked as a hot kitchen chef, but at the Fatted Calf, my role actually is more on the dessert, on the pastry side, and JJ is taking on the hot kitchen side of it. And you're correct. When we started, we were actually, if not for the Lord's um, guidance and parang kung walang confirmation din sa kanya, I don't think that we'll be able to pursue this because there are a lot of restaurants and we actually opened 6 months shy before the first Taal volcano eruption happened, which was January 2020.
Aray ko, nataal ka na COVID ka pa.
Naku po, sinabi niyo po, we opened July 2019, full of hopes and, calling our friends to help us out since we just opened. I mean, it was a restaurant 12 years in the making. And then, just when the time that we were able to
Yes.
establish
Mm.
ourselves, which was actually December 2019, so medyo confident na kami ng konti, pagdating ng January, sumabog yung bulkan.
Mhm.
So it was really tough for us because for a new restaurant to experience that
In a destination restaurant.
in a destination restaurant, but like what we mentioned, pag ramdam mo yung kamay ng Diyos, actually our guests who helped us, they went up after the volcano erupted, after 2 weeks. And alam mo, Sir Sito, ito yung mga tao na never cleaned a day in their lives. But they went up, they scrubbed the floor, they scrubbed the walls, the driveway, and told us that they're doing that because they wanted us to open again. So we did. We were able to open after a month, February 2020. And then after that, March was the first lockdown. So the restaurant, sobrang ikse pero sobrang daming nangyari sa amin.
Yeah, but I've been moving around, and as I shared, I went to Baguio, and siguro uh, I don't know. I get emotional just thinking about it. So many of my favorite places, little people who put up really good small businesses, they're gone. They just couldn't survive. And in fact, one I visited, may sign nga na to our suppliers, we will meet our obligations, etc. Just call us here. Parang sabi ko, napaka-noble. Sinara na sila ng COVID, broke na sila, nawala na yung business, pero ito sinusulat pa sa pintuan, we will meet our obligations. Now you have been blessed by the Lord, brought there, supported by friends, perhaps church members as well. But what convinced you to go on?
Well, for one, if it was time to close, because we've always been told and we've always been taught to never hold on to something tightly. Because when the time comes that the Lord wants to take it away from you, you just have to let it go.
Mhm.
No matter how hard we worked for Fatted Calf, when the Lord says, tama na, tapos na, it's time, okay na, but
But every time that there are actually conversations that happen, Sir Cito. We are small. We're not, as mentioned, we're not a corporation. It's just the two of us running it. Although we have experiences on how to run a business, most especially a food and beverage establishment, but it doesn't mean that we have the funds to
Yeah.
actually sustain it. But every time that we talk and we pray na baka ito na, because there are really months or really there are weeks wherein we only get one table, two tables, and that's very disheartening for a restaurant and for the staff as well.
Yeah.
But every time that we say, okay na, final week na, and then let's decide next week or next month, then people will start to come. So we know that it's
May mga nagsasabi pa na, please lang ha, kahit anong mangyari, okay magsasara. Just hang in there.
so
Because you're
we
doing something good.
so we know it's not yet time, and
Mhm.
it's just really by God's grace that we're still
Yeah.
open.
Okay.
It was
Eh,
so hirap.
ayoko namang lumampas yung oras natin. Hindi ko malaman kung ano nasa menu. Ano ba pinagmamalaki ninyo dyan at bago ako magmaneho ng 1 oras at kalahati papunta dyan sa silang.
All of our food items are actually slow cooked. We don't rush. We take our time, and honestly, it's not smart for a restaurant to do, because the faster that you cook something, then that's better. But for us, we look at food items as our dishes that we prepare as something that those are the food that we really wanted to eat, not only in the restaurant but also outside.
Okay.
Kanina nabanggit niyo, Sir Sito, na you were actually introduced to food items that are actually imported.
Mhm.
Well, the Fatted Cafe is also using imported items.
A few.
A few, because at the end of the day, we are championing local, but of course there are still items that's on the menu that the Philippines could not make it yet,
Yeah,
diba?
like steak.
Yung parang yung foie gras, yung
Yeah.
truffle, wala naman yan dito
Wala
eh.
pa rin.
Tsaka mga steaks, but siguro like our signature dish is actually a roast beef. But yung roast beef na yun is yung buong bulalo.
So there was a challenge by one of our friends who said, "Oh sige, Tagaytay pa din silang area, so dapat Bulalo pa din." So ang sabi namin agad ni JJ, "No, but we can't do Bulalo soup."
Like in every day, some bulalo shop opens.
And then
Mm.
sabi sa amin, "Who told you na soup?" So that's the challenge. Anong kaya niyong gawin with
So be creative.
with
So
Bulalo?
we cook that for 10 hours.
So we
Wow.
get the whole leg, and then we cut a portion,
It's about 2.5 to 3 kilos per piece.
and then we slow roast it for 10 hours. And then we serve it with yung mga pinagtabasan. So yung
Mhm.
tuhod, we use the trimmings to make the
The
sauce.
Ah.
So that's one of our best sellers. And then we have to utilize yung kalahating part ng leg. So the next best seller of the restaurant is actually also buko. But
Okay.
we use fresh tomatoes.
But for those who are heading down or up there this week or the weeks to come, they can check out your website. You have a menu. Kasi yung mga I've discovered while traveling that many restaurateurs like you are now requiring pre-order. Kumbaga, you have to have by appointment, you have to order the food you want already para pagdating mo doon, upo ka na lang at mag-appetizer ka muna, niluluto na namin yung pagkain.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So that's also the same. That's the same for the Fatted Calf.
Yeah,
Mm.
so we have Facebook, we have IG. You can search us, The Fatted Calf PH or The Fatted Calf Silang. And then right now kasi we're open only Fridays to Mondays, but very soon we'll be opening
6 days. a
6
week.
days a week na.
Okay, well, I do hope and pray that the Lord will open your doors and keep them open and keep the customers coming. Pero babantayan ninyo, ha? Baka mamaya masobrahan niyang 10-hour roasted bulalo. Aray ko po, challenge na naman yan. Pag napanood na naman ng mga friendship ko, Kuya, tara na, wag mo nang patagalin. Thank you very much, JJ and Rhea. Have a good week ahead of you, and thank you for sharing your story and your
Awesome.
faith in the Lord.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
also. Thank you for having us.
Okay, there you go. That's JJ and Rhea Sisip, owners of the Fatted Calf dyan po sa Silang Cavite. You can check them out by, I suppose, Google Map and on the web and on IG. So, well recommended. Kinukulit ako ng kaibigan ko si RD Abelio. Tara na, kuya. Relax ka lang, RD. Magpapapayat pa ako. Okay, let's now close the program with the week's blessing from Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 26. For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. But to the sinner, he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. So be good, be blessed. Thank you for joining us here on Agenda. Hope you stay safe and stay healthy. Please keep it here on One News PH.